Big thanks to Napoleon Grills for sponsoring this episode.
If you're the type of person that likes juicy, tender, and absolutely freaking delicious tasty food, then this is the recipe for you. This is an iberico pork collar and I love it to death. And the reason why is because we got beautiful dark red meat, but look at this. This is what is called the money muscle. The amount of intermuscular fat that sits on this piece of meat is literally insane. Can we start cooking because I really want to eat this?
No more talking.
No more talking. And I'm going to start by slicing open this piece of meat. It's called the butterfly technique. Just take a long knife, like this beautiful forged butcher's knife, and start making long incisions while you're rolling off the meat at the same time. Now we have a huge flat surface on which we can put loads of flavor. We're gonna start by making the PitmasterX steak rub. It starts with a tablespoon of finishing salt. I like to use fleur de sel. Then I follow it up with 2 teaspoons of onion powder, a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of ground black pepper, a teaspoon of dried parsley, a teaspoon of dried chives, a teaspoon of dried thyme, and I'm finishing off strong with a teaspoon of dried rosemary. Now mix that all up, and that's how you make PitmasterX's steak rub. I need this steak rub to stick to the meat, so I'm gonna drizzle on a little bit of oil. Of course, it's gonna be an extra virgin olive oil, good quality, because you will taste the difference. Then I will sprinkle on the steak rub. I'm gonna grate on the zest of 2 lemons. And that lemon zest is going to brighten up this roast and give it a real nice summery flavor. Then I'm going to follow it up with pecorino cheese. And that pecorino cheese is going to bring loads and loads of umami flavor. So we got the salt, we got rosemary, thyme, all these ingredients from the steak rub with the lemon zest. And then we're going to add umami flavors. And that will round everything up, make it a really well-balanced meal. This is something of a specialty of ours in the Netherlands. We make it snow with cheese. For the next ingredient, I fired up my side burner, put on a pressed cast iron pan, and roasted some pine nuts. Once they're toasty, tasty, and brown, it's time to sprinkle them onto the pork collar. And don't be shy, because this is going to bring another layer of savory and umami flavors. And now it's time for our final ingredient. Do you recognize it? Prosciutto. An absolute delicious piece of charcuterie that we're going to layer on the meat, and that's going to bring a unique flavor profile. It's going to be so freaking delicious. Doing an extra on an extra of an extra, we could have just stopped with the steak rub and it would have been amazing. Now it's time to roll it up and try and keep everything inside that roast. So keep the pressure on, roll it up, move it to the center, press down. I'm going to use my favorite technique to tie up this beautiful roast, making sure that I keep all of the ingredients on the inside of the roast. Now it's time to drizzle on some more extra olive oil on the outside, sprinkle on a little bit of that steak rub on a rotisserie skewer. Look at that. That is starting to look good. What a delicious piece of meat. And the cool thing about using a rotisserie is that it is such an easy way to cook, because all you need to do is watch it rotate and turn delicious. It's like a baby. No, it's more of like a fluffy rabbit. I'm coming up with all kinds of things like opening up a restaurant, but
comment down below.
No. We're not, not happening. I'll be cooking on the Napoleon Prestige Pro 500. And this beauty can just slide into that rotisserie, make sure that I center it, get the roast into the right position, and then all I need to do is turn on the back burner. Once the back burner is red glowing hot, it's time to close the lid and let the barbecue do its job. 1.5 hours of the rotisserie doing its job, and look at the magnificent result that we have. We got a delicious brown crust on the outside. Look at all those different spots of color, and look at this light brown especially. That is the Maillard effect at its finest. And the Maillard effect turns savory meat into sweetness, all by itself. So during the rotating, all of the fat started rendering out, dripping and going around the rotisserie, keeping that meat moist in itself. But the salt and the ingredients kept the fat on the outside. So it basically fried and turned crispy on the outside. And I measured the core temperature, and we reached the core temperature of 65 degrees Celsius, which tells me this is good to take off and start slicing into. But we're not going to do that. No. I've got a trick. a French technique that they use to make roast even more delicious. Let me show you. This is a flambadou, and they used it in ancient French castles to make sure your meat is extra juicy. Now the trick is to get it red glowing hot and then get some of that French butter and just drip it in and let it melt on top of the meat, making the outside extra juicy. Woo! As you can see, this was red glowing hot and it's a dangerous device. So be careful with whatever you do. Let's now take a look at that roast. Look at how gorgeous it become. All that fat bubbling everywhere, that butter sitting on the outside, making it even more creamy and tasty. Yeah, the French know what they're doing. I think it's time to take it off. And give it about 5 minutes of rest before we start slicing into it. Let's see if this drops down. Magical moment, a big slice in the center. Let's see what happened. Oh, crunchy. Wow. Oh, that looks so freaking amazing. Juices are still running even though I let it rest. Absolutely amazing. Let's get a slice out of this. Whoa. Oh. So good, and you see all these ingredients melted down and the flavors spread out, became one with the roast. Oh, one of the most beautiful things you can do to a roast. Fill it up, put it on the rotisserie, let it become crunchy, let the meat develop its flavors, and then enjoy all of the goodness.